I'm Steve Chaconis, and this is the National Bass Fishing Show. Springtime fishing is great. I can take that Carolina rig, drag it down, and catch fish with it. I can use a jerkbait, a suspending jerkbait, catch all kinds of fish with it. But the first bait I reach for whenever it's springtime is a lipless crankbait. So what makes them so special? They've been around for so long, and everybody's been making them. Every company makes them now. I got to tell you a story because this is really important. I was fishing with clients, and I had clients that I used to call them same time next year. You know, it'd be two guys, they got the same, vacation, or they work together, whatever. They always would come down a certain time of the year. And these two guys loved coming down in the springtime because that was a great time to throw lipless crankbaits. And I kind of think I'm pretty good at throwing lipless crankbaits, but when I would fish with these guys very early in the year, the water was a little bit muddier and a little bit higher, and these guys were catching fish and I wasn't catching them. I thought I was using the same color. I thought I was using the same bait. So after the second year in a row where they were out fishing me, I decided to check things out. So I took every little lipless bait I had. I probably had 20 different companies making them, 20 different model sizes, different companies and all that. And I looked at them. I said, well, they look the same. They look about the same length. And then I started looking, well, wait a minute, that one's a little wider. That one's got a little thinner. That one's taller. This one has this rattle. That one has this rattle. But the biggest thing that I found is that appearances can be deceiving. I took a scale, my wife's Weight Watcher scale. I took it out and I weighed lipless crankbaits, and I found there was a huge difference. When I used a half-ounce size, it wasn't a half ounce. Some of them were lighter, some of them were heavier, and that makes a big difference because this game is all about depth and speed. If I have a heavy bait and I want to go slow, that's what I'm going to use, the heavier bait. I want to go real slow, I go with a heavy bait. I want to go faster, I go with a lighter bait. That's just simple. And you think about it all the time, but I didn't really evaluate my baits in detail like I do now. So I decided to look at baits, and now I judge my baits on not just appearance, but also on their weight and their shape. But we'll talk about some of them. I like Lucky Craft lipless crankbaits because they have not only entered that category decades ago, 20 years ago, they started having one they call the LV100. Kind of an odd looking bait, has a fin in the back. That is the tightest wiggle of any lipless crankbait I've ever used. That thing, you just wind it through the water, it comes through grass, it's really good. So the attraction of these baits is that at a very slow speed, they have a lot of vibration to them. The vibration continues with the sound. So you can hear the bait, feel the bait, see the bait as it's coming through. So that was like one of the first ones. And this is like the size of what we used to call a 1/4 ounce bait. Now, then you go up to the other end of the scale. They've got these ones that are just super heavy. You could go 15, 20 feet with them with no problem. I like baits. If you look at this one, this is a newer one. This is an LV150 from Lucky Craft. Really love this bait, okay? It's tall, I call it a bite size. But look how thin that back is. This thing really puts out a lot of vibration and comes through the water very well. Its cousin, the RTO 150, they're about the same length, but this one's a little heavier. Look how fat that nose is, huh? Look at that. That is a really fat nose. So what it does, it ends up vibrating more in the water and digging down and kind of really creating more disturbance. So I have all these things. Now, I like using them under different situations: clear water, muddy water, shallow water, deep water. And I have basically 2 or 3 color patterns that I like. In the springtime, I like throwing the reds, the crawfish. And a lot of people, oh, well, the crawfish are coming out, and that's the color of the crawfish. That's what those bass are keying on. And I'm saying springtime water coming in makes the lake a little bit muddier, makes the river a little bit muddier, and red is easier for these fish to find. And I'm going to be dragging it on the bottom. I'm just going to cast it out as far as I can. I'm going to use probably 12-pound test, Gamma Edge fluorocarbon. That's a good in-between. Sometimes I'll drop to 10, sometimes I'll go up to 14. But I'll make that long cast, keep that rod tip down, and slowly wind it, That fluorocarbon allows me to feel everything down there, everything. And when I do get that bite, it's usually because all of a sudden I don't feel anything. the rod loads, and I swing. I sweep set. I don't snap set. They do have good sized trebles on them, and they're very, very sharp, but I still don't want to rip that bait out of the fish's mouth. The fish kind of loads, and you just sort of swing. So I'll use that early spring. Now, as the water gets clearer, I like to go with the blues, the shad colors, either the chrome with a blue back or a chrome with a black back. Those are just tried and true, been around forever. Now you can match the hatch, whatever that is these days. Try to get something that looks like the bait fish there. If you have a lot of trout, you want trout colors in it. You have a lot of bluegill, put bluegill colors in it. But I always believe it's what can the fish see? What colors can they see? So on a sunny day, boy, I tell you what, that creates a lot of flash. Fairly clear water, sunshine hitting it, that's going to create flash. On a cloudy day, we don't have as much sun penetrating the water. So gold tends to collect the light a little bit better. Got to tell you a real quick story. I took a lady fishing with this guy that was one of my clients, and he says, can you take women? I said, of course I do. I love fishing with women. So we get out there, and it was cold. It was a March, and we were going to be throwing lipless baits. And she looks at my boat. She looks in the rod box. She goes, hand me one of those CU 200s. Well, back then I was using Corrado reels, and the old CU 200 was the reel we used. I go, wow, this lady knows her gear. I said, you know how to catch? Oh, yeah. She starts whipping it out there. But she says, what are we using today? I said, we're using lipless crankbaits. She said, what color? I said, well, we're using red, of course. It's the springtime, right? We always use red. She goes, well, give me a chartreuse one. So I give her a chartreuse one. I'm catching fish. Her buddy's catching fish. She's not. All of a sudden, a couple of minutes later, she's catching fish. We're not. This goes back and forth, and she all of a sudden goes, I figured it out. I said, what'd you figure out? She said, when the clouds come through, your red bait works much better. When the sun comes through, the clouds move away and the light penetrates, my chartreuse one works better. Pay attention to these little subtle details, because I'll bet you that she would be out there fishing and have one on with red, one on with chartreuse, and she'd be watching the sky, watching it. And you know why? Because I found out later on who her fishing partner was. It's Roland Martin. That's who she spends most of her time fishing with. So you never know when you're fishing with somebody what you'll learn. Hope this helped you with these lipless crankbaits. Get out there, cast them, have a good time. And remember, tell your friends about my YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you next time.